The anime begins with not just one, but 6 useless adventurers who are struggling to beat a few standard goblins. Their efforts is so comical, even the archer has 0 aim and almost hits her teammate. The brute comes in swinging, but the goblin dodges and goes after their mage. The girl panics and fails to finish her enchantment, so she is hit to the floor by the creature, but just as it prepares to finish her off, the leader comes in and saves her before healing her. He gives them a pep talk, saying that this is a serious situation they find themselves in, and if they do not pull themselves together, the goblins will eliminate them because they too want to live. They ready themselves to fight seriously against the weakest creatures in the land of Grimgar. The fact that they are struggling means that they are all collectively as useless as Sakura, if not more useless. Morning comes and it turns out that the group lost the battle and had to retreat. The leader Minato comes to wake up Haruhiro and Ranta for them to get ready for breakfast. Haruhiro was supposed to be on breakfast duty, but he overslept. Instead, Maguzo and the 2 ladies help with making the food. The group gather after the meal is prepared and enjoy the food together, even though their ingredients aren't of the highest quality because they have no money. This group of useless adventurers are yet to defeat their first ever monster, so until then, they will remain broke as a mofo. Their plan of action is to target only 1 goblin since they are too weak to take on 2 or more. As they talk, the leader mentions a word that seems familiar, but none of them understand what the word means. This has been a frequent thing ever since they arrived at Grimgar a few days back. We get a flashback of how they suddenly awakened in a tower, with no previous memories at all. When Haruhiro woke up and went outside, he saw a bunch of people he didn't recognize. Since none of them know what is going on, they ask the guards who takes them to meet Brittany. He informs them that they are in the town of Ortana, and his job is to oversee the volunteer soldiers for the town's borderland. The Chad-looking one named Renji demands for answers, but he is confronted when he calls the chief a pervert. He warns the kid not to refer to him as such, otherwise he will be eliminated. However, Renji doesn't back down, telling the chief to bring it on. Brittany lets it slide and warns him that he will get him at a later time. The chief then moves on to explain that he will offer each person 10 silver coins if they join the volunteer soldier squad, which will be enough for them in the meanwhile. He will also offer them a trainee badge worth 20 silver coins, and once they decide to be official members, they can purchase the official badge for an extra 20, which comes with certain benefits. Haruhiro in the background wonders where his cell phone is, but he quickly realizes that he doesn't know what that is. The chief informs them that to get more information, they need to defeat monsters and gather info for themselves. But he does tell them that after they have beaten a monster, they need to take their spoils in order to sell it. He advises them not to give up, otherwise they will die. Brittany then welcomes them as trainee soldiers. Back to the present, and the useless group get ready to head out. We learn that monsters and other races in this world threaten humanity. That is why soldiers have to defend the borderlands. Since the main army have their hands full with other pressing issues, volunteers are needed to aid maintain the borderlands. It turns out that Renji and his party have already bought the official badges while this pathetic group are still trainees. Minato found out that to be able to work in this world, you need to join a guild which cost 8 silver coins. They all joined their respective guilds aligned with their interest and strengths, so Haruhiro decided to join the Thief Guild. The leader named Barbara was surprised to see a trainee joining because a party only realized they need a thief after having experience. She accepted his application and informed him that the introduction training would take 7 days. After the initial grueling training, she gave him a nickname called Old Cat because of his sleepy eyes. For the rest of the group, Minato the leader became a priest, Ranta became a dark knight, Shihoru joined the mages, Yumi became a hunter, and Maguzo chose to be a warrior. The group set up camp and drink some tea whilst having a talk about their training. Ranta compliments Shihoru, but she takes it as her being fat and starts to cry. Yumi comes in and tells her she is fine the way she is. The leader puts an end to the antics, so the group carry on with their journey. A while later, Yumi goes on the lookout and finds a number of goblins around a fire chilling and laughing like friends. She gets jealous of the type of food they are eating, but since they are so weak and broke, there is nothing they can do. Despite it being 13 days when they arrived, they are yet to make a single penny, but Haruhiro is grateful for still being alive. That night, Haruhiro wakes up from sleep but doesn't see Minato around, so he goes out into the cold looking for him. He spots the leader coming down the stairs and notices the smell of tipsy juice on him. Minato informs him that there is a tavern nearby where he goes to drink and gather information, giving that it is a hangout for volunteer soldiers. Haruhiro is amazed that the leader is willing to spend what little money he has just to gather more intel while the rest of them sleep. They sit around a fire with a drink and talk about how the entire party should go the next time. The duo engage in small talk, and Haruhiro explains how his guild teacher is crazy and scary. Minato, too, gives his exposition as to how much his master used to yell at him, so the two find commonality in having unhinged teachers. Haruhiro notices the red moon and knows for sure that it is bizarre. Although he doesn't know where he is or what is going on, he is positive that the moon from wherever he came from wasn't red. The next day comes along and the group go out hoping to get their first kill. The thief spots a lone goblin and rushes to notify his team about the details. They prepare and make their way to battle, hoping to do a sneak attack. However, Ranta, being the loudmouth, obnoxious fool, begins screaming and swinging while running towards the monster. It tries to retreat, but Yumi fires an arrow in its way to block it from moving. Haruhiro is first to arrive and the battle begins. The goblin attacks with every intent to kill, but the thief dodges and blocks. He notices his disadvantage in range, so he cuts the hand of the monster wielding the sword, though it is too shallow. Ranta finally joins the fight, and he is sent flying mouth open into the ground, eating mud. Minato saves the redhead from being attacked, and the rest of the team eventually arrive. They get into position to ambush the lone monster. The brute struggles to land a strike on it, but as it evades the attack, it falls within perfect distance from Ranta, who pierces it from behind. The monster steps back and screams while the redhead shivers because he knows he cut deep enough to feel bone. The group are a little scared because they know the goblin isn't playing about since it doesn't want to die either, so if they are not careful, it might very well end up clapping them all. They go on the offensive again, and Chihoro shoots a spell that actually lands. The goblin gets irritated and throws his knife into Haruhiro's shoulder before pouncing on his neck to put him to eternal sleep. But the guy refuses to die, so he successfully aims for its neck with his blade, which injures it, giving Ranta the opportunity to inflict a wound on its side. However, this goblin is one tough mofo and still breathes, so Maguzo comes in with the finishing blow to the head, which seemingly takes it out. The team are exhausted. Yume runs over to Haruhiro to remove the knife and then tosses it next to the goblin. He is then healed by Minato's light magic. Ranta walks over to the body and retrieves the booty, which doesn't seem much. Since he's from the Dark Knight Guild, he wants to take a piece of the monster to accumulate something known as a vice. However, because the goblin didn't perish by his hands, the ritual would not work. Turns out the monster didn't die, so it tries desperately to escape, but Ranta chases it down and mercilessly sends it to Goblin Afterlife. Chihoro faints from the scene, and the redhead falls to the floor crying in shock at what he has done. They later take their loot to trade with merchants. One of them offers only 30 copper coins for the silver coin, which usually converts to 100 copper coins. He cannot offer the full amount because of the condition it is in. He does, however, offer 1 silver coin for the black wolf fang they took from the goblin. Minato and Haruhiro are surprised to hear this, so the merchant explains to them that it can be used for many things, including being used to make charms against evil. The group reconvene and decide to take the rest of the day off, but Ranta sits on the bridge still upset. The girls go shopping. Minato bumps into them and buys a hairpin for Chihoro, who couldn't afford it. Grimgar fixes his armor and carves an airplane, though he doesn't know what it is. Haruhiro just chills, enjoying the sun, and by the close of the day, they all meet at the bridge to enjoy the sunset. Ranta informs them that accumulating vices allows him to summon a demon that can give him crucial information about enemies' whereabouts. Later that night, Ranta jumps out of bed wanting to go peep at the ladies. The boys try to warn him that what he's doing is completely wrong, but he ignores them and runs towards the bath. They follow him to stop him, but they all end up getting into trouble. Ranta gets slapped left, right, and center for his disgusting behavior. The next day, Maguzo wakes up early to prepare breakfast with the eggs Haru went out to get. Haru expresses how much of an amazing cook he is and is fascinated by how he enjoys preparing food for others. When the group gather, the boys apologize for what happened the previous night, but Ranta refuses to say sorry and says it was just an accident that the bath wall fell. But after he admits that it fell due to him trying to climb it, he gets a steaming hot slap with extra sauce from Yume. They later go out to work, but the ladies are still mad at them, so they separate themselves from the boys. Chihoro is especially shy to look at them. Yume and Haru go out in the rain to scout the area for lone goblins, but they only find footprints of more than one, so they return to camp to notify their teammates. Since they can only deal with one monster for now, the party decide to return home. For the next 3 days, they didn't get any luck in earnings, so they made absolutely nothing. That night, Haru washes his only underwear that was given to them at the start. They don't even have enough money to buy another pair, so they wash them at night for them to hopefully dry by morning. Shihoru comes in to do her laundry as Haru leaves and she doesn't say a word to him. He wants to take a peek, but he fights himself to be an honorable man with awesome integrity, so he decides to respect her and himself and refuses to look. As he makes his way to bed, he bumps into Ranta, who is going to wash his clothes, but he tries everything to stop the guy from cleaning his garments because the ladies are in there doing their laundry. He manages to convince Ranta not to go, and he also decides to later advise the ladies not to dress like that because it makes them vulnerable. The next day, the party explore a new area called Demuro, which was once a thriving city, but it is now derelict and a base for goblins. In this zone, they are more likely to succeed because most of the goblins are separated from a group. Haru goes out and scouts a lone goblin sleeping, so they strategize a plan to take it out. Luckily for them, they found 4 silver coins, which is quite substantial for them. During the coming days, they continued to explore and map out the abandoned city, which they found great enjoyment in. They are still stuck to their maximum of 2 goblins at a time, but they learned a lot during this period of exploration. Haru had made enough money to buy new underwear, while Ranta was finally able to get some meat and good food. The girls go shopping for ornaments and Shihoru becomes shy when she sees Minato coming. It looks like she might have a thing for Mr. Leader. Later at the base, Minato suggests that although they are making some money now and using it to buy necessities, they should put some aside to learn new skills. When bedtime comes, Yume in the girls' quarters kindly suggest for Shihoru to open up and talk to the boys a bit, rather than being quiet all the time. She takes the advice on board and goes to bed admiring the pin Minato bought for her. And in the boys' room, Haru shows his gratitude to the leader for organizing everything and being a chilled and kind person. He believes that without him, they couldn't survive, so they need him. But Minato also shows his appreciation for them being his friends, and he knows that without them, he wouldn't be alive, nor would he have any friends because he feels like he's the type not to make real friends easily. The next day, Shihoru and Minato later go to gather some ingredients. They stop by the bridge to feed a few birds where they have a moment when Shihoru falls. A strange-looking cat wants to join the action, so Minato feeds it. When daylight comes by, the team prepare for another hunt. They seem to be more proficient with their attacks since they all acquired new skills from their respectful guilds. Even Shihoru has gotten better and can now use the power from elementals who are magical beings. Since Minato also fights on the front line, he has learned a new attack with his staff, because those who belong to the priest guild are not allowed to use any type of blade. Now that Ranta has gained a demon, he continues to collect vices so that he can gain more abilities for his demon he has named Zodiaco. After the fighting, Yume offers some food to the god of her guild called Elhit, who is a white wolf that keeps hunters safe. She informs her team that whenever she sleeps, she has a dream about riding on the wolf's back. Ranta gets irritated by her storytelling and tells her to learn how to get to the point which makes the leader laugh. Looking at the party, he is pleased with how much they have grown. They are now capable of taking on 3 goblins at a time, and he is hopeful they can increase it to 4 with a more refined strategy. He then goes around detailing each member's strengths and how well they contribute to the party. He especially points out how Shihoru learned shadow magic, which is a support-based magic in order to be of use to the team. But before he gets to Haruhiro, who we will be calling Haru from now on, a cloud covers the sun, prompting the leader to realize they have spent a lot of time chilling. Haru isn't offended that he was left out and figures that he will ask him later about it. But as they go on their way, an arrow is shot in the direction of the leader, so Haru pushes him out of the way and is hit in the shoulder. Maguzo helps him up, but he gets another arrow to the leg. Haru lost his weapon in the process of being taken into cover, and as Minato heals him, the rest are ambushed by more goblins, so they all have to retreat. Luckily for them, the attack from the giant goblin sealed their escape route, which prevents the big monsters from pursuing the party. One of them climbs to get a visual where he sees Minato open. The monster shoots his arrow, which hits the leader in the back, but he pretends nothing happened, so they continue their escape. When they finally reach a safe space, Minato falls to the floor with an arrow in his back. He is unable to use his healing magic after using most of it to fix Haru. Haru screams for Minato to tell him what to do, but the leader just apologizes, saying he is counting on Haru before collapsing. They pull the arrow out and try to stop the bleeding, and by evening they arrive at his master's location for him to heal Minato. Haru begs for the Conehead to heal their leader. However, when he takes a look at Minato, he informs them that there is nothing that can be done to bring the dead back to life. He is very disappointed because the guy had so much potential to just waste away his life like that. He tells them to respect Minato by giving him a proper funeral, otherwise he will become a zombie and servant of the no-life king. The priest warns that they only have a maximum of 5 days to do so. He suggests that they cremate him and offers to pay for it. but Haru angrily refuses and says that they will cover the costs since Minato is their friend. Shihoru and Yume cry in the background. Not long after, they do what was told of them, and the party scatter his ashes, which is blown away by the wind into the wilderness. We later learn that the burial cost them a total of 1 silver coin. Half was used for the cremation, and the other half was for the grave. While the teen grieve, Ranta picks up his weapon and says he is leaving because he sees no point in staying. Yume slaps him for being so insensitive at a time like this. His anger quells down a bit when she calls him an idiot and begins to cry, but he ends up leaving them anyway. We cut to Ranta's location, and he's at the tavern Minato used to visit. Haru and Maguzo join him for a drink. He tells them that he's fed up of all this warrior nonsense, so he wants to quit being a soldier, although he doesn't know what he'll do next. Haru reminds him that they have no other choice because the only job they know how to do is to be volunteer soldiers. Ranta understands that, but he can't comprehend how they are supposed to carry on without their leader. Their dialogue leads to a fight between them both. Ranta ends up blaming Haru for Minato's death because he used all his magical energy to save him. The gentle Maguzo has had enough and screams for them to stop fighting. When they see the look in his eyes, they both calm down and sit to think about what to do next. They contemplate perhaps getting a different job, but Ranta wants to just do nothing. He is told that once he joined the Dark Knight Guild, he isn't allowed to quit. One of the guys named Kikawa, who was summoned with them, comes to their table drunk and is happy to see them. He asks about Minato's whereabouts since they used to drink and talk about their job, but he is sorry when he is told that Minato passed away. They ask him how things are going, so Kikawa informs them that he joined an awesome party with an amazing leader. He enlightens them that he isn't surprised that Minato passed away, since priests have a high mortality rate for being healers. Enemies usually target them, and it is the duty of the warrior to protect the priest. He thought they knew this basic information. Maguzo becomes sad because it was his duty to protect Minato, but he failed. Kikawa tells them not to be too harsh on themselves. What has happened, so the best thing for them is to be positive and move past this. Now that the party has no priest, they worry that no one will want to join a group who are volunteer soldiers, but Kikawa notifies them that he knows of someone who will join. He introduces them to Mary, and the next day, the two girls meet her for the first time before their hunt. She has a different way of operating, and she comes across as rude and cold. During their strategy meeting, she refuses to fight in the front line because she's a priest. Ranta gets agitated and questions if her staff is just for show. She even refuses to heal people right away if their injuries aren't serious. She likes to wait until the battle is over before healing any significant wounds. Everyone in the group seemed to find her a little bit annoying, and the boys regret accepting her into the party without first asking the ladies. As the boys drink at the tavern, Haru remembers how Minato wasn't just their healer and leader, but he was also their strategist with combat abilities on the same level as Maguzo. Right now, it looks like Mary isn't fitting in well with the team, because not only does she work differently, she doesn't fill in the gap Minato left. The boys are confused because they don't seem to have a clear goal anymore. Their previous goal of accumulating money to buy their official badges doesn't seem appealing anymore. While they lament, Renji comes in with his party and walks right up to Haru to give him a gold coin as a gift for them losing Minato. But Haru refuses to accept it and returns it to him. Renji understands and then leaves. Ranta is vexed because 1 gold coin is worth 100 silvers. He calls Haru an idiot because they could have easily bought their official badges. Maguzo notes that Minato wouldn't have accepted it either. It seems to Haru that the group dynamic being off isn't due to Mary. He doesn't know what the issue is, but he recalls that they haven't really spoken to Shihoru or Yume properly. So later that night, Haru speaks to Yume on a level and asks her if she's angry because they recruited Mary without consulting her or Shihoru. But she denies being angry and tells him that he doesn't get it. She aggressively pushes him to the wall and cries, calling him an idiot for not getting it. To be honest, I'm not sure I get it myself. Haru informs her that how is he supposed to get it if she or Shihoru don't tell him. She explains that since she is not so good with words and Shihoru is too shy to talk to the boys, the party as a whole didn't get the chance to comfort each other and grieve properly as a unit. She didn't like the fact that Haru felt like it was his fault. She felt that since they are friends, they should have all shared the burden of losing Minato. Haru finally understands that although Minato was their leader, he alone couldn't do everything, and each party member brought value to the group. He finally lets everything go, and both he and Yume have a good crying session. After the wailing, he holds Yume in his arms and apologizes for the boys shutting her and Shihoru out. She now feels a sense of warmth with how Haru is holding her. They both promise to try and get along with Mary. Shihoru looks out and sees them in an embrace and misreads the situation. Haru tries to tell her it's not what it looks like, and Yume doesn't understand why she's apologizing and feeling embarrassed. Yumi doesn't have all her brain cells functioning, so it takes her some time to finally see how the situation could have looked like. Shihoru later apologizes to Haru for jumping to conclusions and thinking that he was in a relationship with Yume. Ranta hears the word relationship and thinks something more is going on, but he is disappointed when he finds out that it was just a big misunderstanding. They put all that aside during breakfast and discuss how to make Mary feel part of the group. The party meet later that morning, and Mary surprisingly responds with a good morning when Haru greets her. As they walk to their destination, the girls try to create conversation with her, but she just gives them one-word answers and coldly shuts down other questions. They finally reach their place of battle and engage with a few goblins. Maguzo and Ranta are being slightly overpowered, but Mary encourages them not to fall back, but to stand their ground. They both get moderately injured in the fight, and when it is over, she takes a look at Maguzo's head injury and apologizes when she causes him pain by assessing it. She heals him and wipes the blood off his head. Ranta thinks he is next, but she tells him that his is only a scratch, so he doesn't need any healing. Haru pulls her off the side to ask her about how she likes to operate so that the group can understand each other. He noticed that she works differently from their previous healer, so he wants her to explain her methods so the party can adjust and be more coherent. But she takes it as him not liking how she works, so she says that she will just leave if that is how he feels. Haru assures her that she has it all wrong, but he doesn't know how to properly communicate his thoughts with Mary. That night, the original group go to the tavern together. They see Mary come in, and they just look at each other from afar without acknowledging one another. She makes her way to the bar and sits alone. Shihoru points out that perhaps Mary prepared herself for them not to say hi, and that is why she didn't say anything. She thinks that they should have at least waved at her. Maguzo spots the leader of Orion Party talking to her, and Ranta cannot believe she knows someone that renowned. After returning home, Haru cannot sleep, so he sits by the fire thinking about the last words Minato said to him. He knows that the guy wanted him to be their leader. However, Haru doesn't think he can take on such a huge responsibility. He sees a spirit of Minato encouraging him and telling him that he can do it. So the next day, while they fight some goblins, Haru notices that Maguzo is cautious when he fights because he has no helmet, so he informs him to buy one and he will chip him to help. The big guy tries to turn down the help, but Haru alerts him that it is for the good of the team, because having full protection will allow him to fight all out. Shihoru and Yume see the reasoning, so they decide to contribute as well. Mary observes and seems to be impressed with Haru's analysis and how the team are ready to support each other. They are suddenly ambushed by a few goblins, and Mary stands in front of Shihoru to protect her. She even uses her staff to take down one of the goblins. She also has this thing where she prays over the deceased, even if it's a goblin. Haru thanks Mary for saving their teammate, which leaves her confused. They end their day by evening, and before parting ways, Haru asks her if she would like to join them for food, and although it seems like she would like to, she refuses and then leaves. The party notices that she is acting a bit differently, so they think she might be opening up a little. Haru decides to talk to the guy who was speaking to her at the tavern. Maybe he will give them information about Mary. They approach Shinohara and ask him that since he was speaking to her the previous night. They want to know more about her. He calls a guy from his party saying that since he used to be in a party with Mary, the guy would be the best to inform them. The man explains that he and Mary were friends ever since they were trainee volunteer soldiers. She was someone who was always smiling and joyful. Their party was extremely strong, and they managed to get their official badges within 10 days. So they decided to hunt for stronger monsters because everything was so easy for them. They didn't realize that they were putting a huge burden on Mary. She brought a positive energy to the team and would even heal minor injuries right away. She also used to help with fighting. They felt so much assurance with her in the group and became overconfident. There came a time where parties were competing to clear a certain dungeon. They didn't want to lose to them, so they went deeper and deeper. They soon encountered a huge black and white spotted kobold 5 levels down that had eliminated a large number of soldiers in the past. So rather than them running away, they decided to fight, which resulted in the death of 3 party members. Mary couldn't do anything to heal their injuries since she run out of magic, and ever since that day, she stopped smiling. The surviving member also narrates how their party leader sacrificed himself to allow him and Mary to escape. They joined a different party after the ordeal, but she left because she was reminded of the pain of losing their comrades every time she looked at him. To prevent such emotional damage from occurring again, she bounced around parties, never staying long enough to build bonds. The surviving party member is sure that Mary left her heart down on that level, and what they currently see is an empty shell of her former self. He pleads to her new comrades to save her. After hearing Mary's backstory, The party gather and acknowledge that they have not been friendly with her. Ranta doesn't see the point in them being nice to someone who is not interested, but after discussing the issue, they decide to make more of an effort in hopes that the newcomer will also start treating them like friends. Ranta leaves to think about how he's going to face her the following day. He also apologizes to Shihoru for making her upset during the discussion. Everyone is stunned to hear Ranta being remorseful. They tease him before getting some rest. It rains the next day when they head out to Demuro. Some think that this is the heavens rejoicing because Ranta finally said sorry. Yume and Haru scout ahead when she notices one of the goblins holding the dagger he dropped on their infamous raid. He springs up to attack when he gets a flashback of Minato's death, but Yume tackles him to the ground, which stops him. This almost catches the attention of the monster, as he says sorry for his rash behavior. After composing himself, he suggests they tail the goblin so that they can find their hideout. The duo later return to the party to inform them that they didn't find any goblins that would have been good targets. Haru expresses his wish to talk to Mary before they return to town. She assumes that he wants her to leave the party. He can understand why she came to that conclusion, because they have all been acting strangely around her. But their apprehension is because they learnt about her past. The party leader starts by telling her about Minato and how the party lost him because they relied on him too much as their healer, shield, and leader. He also explains that they can't function as a team without a priest and how they are leftovers that nobody wanted to team up with. But Minato took them and formed this party, leading them to becoming friends. No matter what they go through, their friendship still stands. Haru lets Mary know that he thinks of her as a friend. The others also express the same sentiments. They invite her to join them get a helmet for Maguzo, but she rejects the offer. Haru understands and asks her to at least have dinner with them, but she tells them that she is not ready to be that chummy. Mary thanks them and excuses herself. The others head out to the market and pool their money together to get Maguzo his helmet. They continue their expeditions to Demuro, and slowly they start to get closer to Mary, which in turn allowed her to open to them a little. The party also managed to find out the hideout of the goblins that ambushed them and took Minato's life. They regroup at the bar where the other soldiers tease them for only hunting goblins. Ranta gets irritated, but Haru pleads with him not to respond to them. They continue to hunt the green monsters with obsession. This allowed them to buy new equipment. Their dedication has led them to learn that the goblins are also gendered. The females are surrounded by high-level males, so they develop their plan with these details in mind. At this point, Mary is comfortable enough to join them for dinner, but Haru is yet to see her smile. They also learned new skills that allow them to better fight the goblins. While in battle, Haru notices that he sometimes enters a flow state, where he knows exactly where to land the critical blow. He demonstrates this when taking out one of the goblins. The lad doesn't know what this state means, so intends to ask Barbara the next time he sees her. After the encounter, they feel like they are ready to raid the goblin hideout. That night, he has one of his meetings with Minato in his head, and he wants to show him how far their party has come since his demise. The following day, the group arrive at the abandoned city. Everyone already knows the plan, so they have an all-hands-in moment before they execute their objective. Haru makes it clear that the pain of losing Minato is still there, so he has no intention for anyone else to meet their demise. All the while, the goblins think it's just another day, as the boss plays a game of chess against the one who has Haru's dagger. He stops the game when he hears the commotion outside, as the party launch their attack. They blow through the first batch of goblins as they make their way through the hideout. Maguzo deals with the brute goblin. Ranta fights some of the fodder. Yume and Haru engage the boss, while Shihoru and Mary give support. All seems to be going well at first till the goblins start to counter. The boss injures Yume and tries to escape after also taking some damage. Mary heals her party members as they fight. Shihoru goes on the offense when she realizes that Maguzo is struggling against his opponent. Her stun spell hits its mark, giving Maguzo the chance to land the finishing blow. Ranta also finishes his foes. The party regroup and chase down the goblin boss. They find him sitting at the chess table. Ranta steps up to end things, but this is interrupted when a goblin with a crossbow hits Mary in the back with an arrow. Maguzo eliminates the boss who tries to attack during the commotion. Haru chases after the shooter. As soon as he gets closer, the monster pulls out Haru's dagger, making it clear that he was the one who shot Minato. The party leader attacks violently and disarms the goblin. This leads to a struggle between the two, as Haru tries to land the slaying blow. He gets pinned down as they fall down the roof, but Yume throws him his old dagger, which he uses to poke the goblin in the head. He thanks her for the assistance. The party later make their way to Minato's grave to let him know that they have avenged him. Their raid also made them enough money to buy their core badges, making them full members of the volunteer army. They even managed to get one for Minato. Shihoru places it on the gravestone, as they all recall how broke they were in the past. They know that Minato would have told them that it was a waste of money to buy him one, but they are all happy that it was done for their fallen friend. The rest head back as Shihoru remains to cry a little. Yume also stays to comfort her. Haru and Mary walk together, and he's glad to hear that she has recovered from the arrow shot. She notices that he doesn't seem happy even though they have avenged Minato. He reveals that he still feels the emotional wounds from the loss. He can only imagine the pain that Mary must feel after losing 3 friends. His somber mood is him contemplating this. She is surprised that he knows about her past. He apologizes for bringing it up. She agrees that those internal wounds are difficult to heal, but things are getting better. The ring of the bell ends their conversation. She bids him farewell and hopes that they will meet the following day. The party have decided to have a day off since they have achieved such a huge goal. Morning comes as the sun illuminates the town. Haru wakes up to the rings of the bells and remembers that it's the big day off. Let's hope he makes the most of it like Mr. Villain. He comes down to meet Maguzo making breakfast. The tank informs him that Ranta went out earlier. The two eat and Haru is impressed with the quality of the bread that he baked. But Maguzo lets him know that this is not his best work. They carry on with some small talk about the whereabouts of their party members. Haru is sure that the girls stayed up till late since Shihoru was so upset. Maguzo intends to take his armor and weapon to get it fixed since it got badly damaged in their recent fight. Haru doesn't think Maguzo is making the most of his day off because that is what he normally does when they are in town. The party leader is not sure how he's going to spend his day when asked. All he knows is that they will be meeting at the tavern that night. Haru heads out and bumps into Shihoru at the bridge as she feeds some birds. After exchanging pleasantries, she thanks him to his confusion, so the lady lets him know that she just wanted to express gratitude. He continues to stroll around the city after getting some grilled meat. He unexpectedly encounters Mary, who asks him to join her. She notifies him that she stays at the inn, which is only for ladies. He jets up to leave, but she assures him that him being on the terrace is fine. Mary intends to tell Shihoru and Yume about the place when they eventually leave the volunteer soldiers' lodging. Haru is sure that Mary had a lot of memories at those same lodgings with her late party. During that interval, it is revealed that Ranta went fishing on his day off, and Yume went rock climbing because he spots her from his boat. That evening, the party meet at the tavern where they learn that there is trouble in Demuro, so it's not worth hunting there. The idea to turn their attention to the Cyrene mine comes up. Ranta is ecstatic to hear this and commends Haru for having a good idea once every blue moon. The girls are a little worried because the infamous kobold known as Death Spots resides there. Ranta makes it clear that this is one of the reasons for his excitement because his bounty is 30 gold coins. Regardless of their apprehensions, they need to change their hunting grounds. A new challenge will also be good for the group, as it will prevent them from getting complacent, which could turn fatal. Mary stands and starts to hyperventilate. She excuses herself and Haru quickly follows her. He apologizes for the suggestion, as that is the place where she lost her comrades. Haru doesn't think that he could go to the woods where Minato lost his life, and even wishes that he could forget that such a place exists. Mary confesses that she doesn't think that she could be composed inside the mine, but she also knows that she must overcome this to move on. The lady is sure that she can't do it alone, and feels like Haru and the others are the perfect people to help her overcome this, because they see her as a friend. He is happy to hear this, and starts to get a little emotional. She thanks him for wanting to help. The party decided to be fully prepared before facing the Cyrene mine. Everyone set off to learn new skills and upgrade their equipment. Haru pays 40 silver to learn the spider skill, which is a new sneak attack. Barbara wastes no time and hits him with the spider technique, as the first step to learning it is to experience it. While pinned down, Haru tells her about the flow state he enters, where he can see the path to the perfect strike. His master lets him know that it's a good sign, but she warns him not to get too arrogant. She explains that a thief with a lot of experience will enter that state at least once or twice. He makes it clear that he sees it often. Barbara tells him that she only sees it sporadically. He needs to continue to improve his technique and physical strength if he wants to progress. Some time passes, and all members of the party are prepared as they find themselves at the mouth of the Cyrene mine. The group find themselves deep in the action soon after entering the mine. They use their new skills to deal with the kobolds. Mary says a prayer over their defeated foes as Haru makes his way over. She informs him that the nose rings on the kobolds are protective charms. Every member of this species has one. The reason why these rings seem worthless is because the kobolds on the first level of the mine are fodder and classed as weak within their society. The kobolds on the lower levels have more valuable talismans. Ranta doesn't discriminate and takes the rings of their defeated foes since they are still worth something. Haru also joins the others as they loot, but he does so with a little bit more care because he feels a little guilty since they are the invaders from the kobolds' perspective. They proceed forward as Mary reveals that the mine has 10 levels. The lesser kobolds live on the earlier floors and hold no status. The normal kobolds are workers, and the elders are the leaders who live on the lower floors. They are also the only group who can freely use the mine's lifts. This is installed on the 3rd layer and takes those that use it to the lower levels. The volunteer soldiers usually use the wells to move between layers because the lift is normally heavily guarded. As they arrive on the 2nd level, Mary warns them that the normal kobolds are found from this layer downward, so things are going to get more difficult. They stumble across some of the monster wolves sleeping. Ranta wants to ambush them, but everyone feels like it would be better to leave quietly. They later encounter another group of monsters who they take out, opening the path to the 3rd floor. Mary warns them again that the difficulty is about to increase because they will be encountering elders who fight tactically. Haru gives the order for them to return to the town. He wants them to further prepare and rest before proceeding. The party leader also checks in on Mary, and she assures him that she is fine. That night, Haru decides to have a chat with Ranta to better understand him, since he has always been the odd one in the group. Ranta makes it clear that he's only concerned about doing his job and is less interested in the friendship aspect of the group. He's not bothered if everyone dislikes him. Day breaks and Haru wakes up to Yumi practicing her knife throws since he spent the rest of the night sleeping outside. He realizes that there is a blanket over him and thanks her since she is the one who covered him to prevent illness. The party get ready and head back to the mines and quickly pass through the 3rd level after dealing with the monsters. They are surprised by how different the 4th floor is from the ones above, as it's like farmland. They even admire some of the animals that have been domesticated by the kobolds. Their sightseeing comes to an end when Mary tells them to get down after spotting the enemy. Ranta wants them to deal with the threat, but he is told that from the 4th level down, not dealing with the groups instantly will cause a big commotion. He accidentally bumps into a wire which trigger the bells attached to it to ring. This alerts the kobolds to their presence. Mary suggests they head straight to the 5th level now that their cover has been blown, and the kobold have the advantage on the open field. She freezes in horror as the loud howling of the others brings death spots to their location. His heavy step and the sound of him dragging his blade along the ground brings back those horrible memories. She also gets flashbacks of the good times she spent with her party. Haru's calls snaps her out of the trance and back to the present. She apologizes for the lapse and carefully guides them to the 5th floor. The first thing that hit them was the intense heat from all the metal smelting that was going on. This is also the level that Mary lost her friends. Given the layout of the area, they can easily be spotted, so she further directs them to the fallen temple of Lumiaris for them to rest. The kobolds don't worship any gods, so they rarely go there. Mary finds her old staff on the floor as the others take a breather. Yumi hears some unfamiliar movement and alerts the others. Ranta throws a luminous flower which reveals some hooded people walking toward them. Mary recognizes them as her fallen comrades. The No-Life King's curse has caused them to turn into zombies. She takes the front line as she feels like it's her duty to lead the charge to free her friends from the curse. The undead party members still have access to their skills from when they were alive. But after a tough battle between the two sides, Mary manages to release her old friends from the curse with the help of her new comrades. She is so grateful because she can finally move on now that they have been put to rest. The others comment on how strong her old party members were. Encountering them has only highlighted how much stronger they need to get. Just as everyone starts to relax after that hard fight, Death Spots aggressively appears before them. Haru narrowly deflects the large wolf's attack, but almost loses his hand. They run away from Death Spots, but he lets out a howl that alerts everyone to the intruders. The kobolds spring into action and chase after them as they frantically try to evacuate. Death Spots begins to tear down the scaffolding that the party stand on. Haru almost falls, but Ranta grabs him, giving him a chance to climb up. They both dash to reach the others, but Death Spots throws a shield at the scaffolding, causing the side that Ranta is on to come crumbling down. He falls on the pile of wood and tells the others to go on ahead. He has no intention of losing his life and plans to catch up to them later. Haru climbs up to the 4th layer and informs the others of what happened to Ranta, but he reminds everyone of his strong will to survive and assures them that he will be fine. They intend to head back to the 5th floor to rescue him, but the party go to the 3rd level to regroup first. During that interval, Ranta points his sword at the monsters that surround him and promises to take them out. He gets pinned down by some arrow fire, but he counters by throwing debris at them. He somehow manages to escape the 4th floor, though he's badly injured. He lands in one of the animal pens where the worm-like creatures allow him to take cover using their bodies. He uses this opportunity to summon his demon familiar, but it teases him, stating that he should just give up and die. All the while, the party arrive at the temple and heal themselves before taking stock of the situation. Haru makes it clear that their objective is to save Ranta and to make sure that they all make it out of this alive. Yume gives a speech about how she dislikes Ranta for always saying that she has an ironing board for a chest, but she doesn't want to see him lose his life and gets emotional thinking about how he must be feeling fighting for his life. The party leader assures her that he will be fine as they set off to retrieve him. During that interval, a kobold gets suspicious of the way the animals are lying and goes to check, but Ranta swiftly stabs it, but the creature drops its weapon, which alert another kobold nearby. It then lets out a howl that alarms everyone. The bells ring across the 4th floor. At this point, the party arrive to find the commotion and are sure that it has been caused by Ranta, which means he escaped the 5th floor. Shihoru spots the monsters surrounding a shed, which hints that he managed to lock himself in there. Their assumptions are right. Ranta's demon familiar is sure that he's going to lose his life. He regrets not having a lewd moment with Yume before finding himself in this life or death situation. His thoughts are halted when Death Spots rips the roof of the shed and looks down on him like he's hunting in a pot. The monster breaks the wooden structure with a single punch. He uses his evade skill to narrowly dodge an attack, but he's too injured to put any significant distance as he limps. Yumi fires an arrow which hits Death Spot's eye. This slows it down a little, allowing Ranta to rush into Haru's hands. He is so relieved to see them, but he tries to play it off. The others deal with the kobolds. Yumi continues to unleash her arrows as Mary heals Ranta. She is down to her last arrow and Death Spots is still standing. Luckily, he's healed enough for him to move unassisted, so Haru gives the order for them to retreat. They head back to the abandoned temple where Mary finishes the treatment. Yumi teases him for his tears of relief. He vehemently denies this, stating that his tears are because of his wounds, but he accidentally reveals that all he wanted to do was see Yumi again when his life was almost over. Ranta quickly tries to retract his statement, but she only further makes fun of him. Mary demands he stay still while she finishes her healing. Haru also comes back from his scouting to inform them that the coast is clear, so they can make their way back to town. Everyone is happy to hear this, but he reminds them not to let their guard down till they arrive home. The party climb up through the layers as Haru thinks about his leadership skills. He thinks about how he has a lot to improve on if he wants to get to Minato's level. Mary also tells the party that she will not be able to use magic for some time because she has done so much healing. Haru can see that both her and Shihoru look drained. The worst possible thing happens when they are later attacked by Death Spots, who has tracked them down. They try to hold him off, but Maguzo's blade is broken in the process. Mary warns everyone to be careful because the monster gets stronger from his wounds. Haru decides that the only option is for them to run since they are all fatigued. His body starts to move on its own as he becomes the one to hold Death Spots back while the others get away. He uses his scarf as leverage to pull the monster down. Mary tries to go help him, but Ranta prevents her because Haru asked him to make sure that everyone gets out. He tells his leader not to give up and to make it back alive. Haru gets his bearings again and realizes that his hand is broken from the fall. Death Spots also gets up as Haru braces the injured arm ready to fight. As he faces the monster, he enters the flow state and sees the path, so he lets his body move autonomously. Death Spots starts to travel in slow motion as Haru dodges its attacks and counters with an eye poke. He takes things to another level when he remains in the flow state and cuts through Death Spot's blade as it comes down with a strike. The momentum of the cut blade hits the monster, which eliminates it. Haru takes a few steps before collapsing. He wakes up to a smiling Mary, and he thinks that it is heaven for a moment. She laughs at his comment before welcoming him back to their world. He gets dressed and comes out to his party's joy. Maguzo already has a bowl of soup ready for him to eat. He takes a seat and asks what happened to Death Spots. Shihoru is surprised that he doesn't recall what happened. Ranta throws him a huge bag of coins and tells him that this is the bounty of 30 gold coins for Death Spot's head. They wanted to wait for him to wake up to figure out how they would split the bounty. The party inform him that they found him next to the defeated monster, so they assume that he did it. Maguzo has taken the broken section of Death Spot's blade to make a new weapon. All the while, Brittany rips up the bounty poster for Death Spots and is impressed that Haru and his party managed to take it out. That night, other soldiers toast to the party's success. Renji apologizes for trying to give them the gold coin out of pity when Minato passed away. He now realizes that it was disrespectful. Haru didn't see it like that, and didn't accept it because he hadn't processed Minato's death yet. Ranta steps up and states that they will buy drinks for everyone that night as part of the celebration. The following morning, Haru visits Minato's grave, excited to see their future selves. He meets up with his party as they set off for their next adventure. That brings the series to an end.